how fitness and this wellness mindset has really saved my bacon, basically, because I was under some crazy amount of pressure. When I got there, I realized that, first off, I have not been part of any of the pre-production planning meetings, which is never a good idea, but it happens many times that you are not part of those meetings. I was flying straight out from across the country from another event, and I was walking in on equipment that has never been tested, not put together, and also something that I haven't sourced myself. So I had no idea what am I walking into. So the setup day, as we are unloading the truck, and I'm basically starting to piece together what I've got to work with. I'm looking at my workflow and I'm realizing that what I've got to do does not match the tools I have at hand. And it's a high profile event, high profile client. And I had that moment of panic of realizing this event right now sits on my shoulders. There's nobody else with my expertise. Nobody knows more than I do. And I've got to figure out how the heck I'm going to make this work. So in other words, I freaked out for a moment. Like I remember going to the bathroom and hyperventilating and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sink, like the narrative that's going through my mind, right? It's like, I'm going to sink this show. Like, that's it. Like what they're sending me to do, it's impossible. Like there's no way I can make this happen. And that's when having that training, having done that resilience, that workouts and challenges, really, they do train your mind to go through. I backed up, for a moment, and I started like going at it like, okay, this is a challenge and let's start from the beginning. I have a few strategies, honestly, in a nutshell, that I usually apply when I'm like under pressure or like when I feel like, okay, everything is like out of control. And I know that if I don't pause, I'm going to like lose it, right? So first off is I focus on my breathing. Like I do box breathing, or like I just need to slow down my brain, get away from like my, freaked out amygdala into my rational brain, so I can process, okay, what is it that I know? What is it that I have? And then start from there and then piece things together from there, right?
I can add something about box breathing.
Yes, please do.
It's funny that you mentioned box breathing, because what's really great about box breathing is it comes from a weird place that most people don't realize, and that's military. They teach soldiers box breathe when they're under fire because it actually calms your mind. It brings your heart rate down. The mental and physical benefits of it. And a box breath, in case nobody knows, it's you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you release for 4 seconds, which leads me to another really interesting thing that you bring up about this is I got to go to Site Classic in San Diego, and they had a morning workout with the Navy SEALs. It was on the beach, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was like, I'm in. Like, I got to go do this. It was all body weight stuff, but they had us in and out of the water. They had us in the sand. What was really interesting is he told all of us what they look for when they are training SEALs and why they do what they do, in way of like trying to intentionally break people. He said, we don't look for the strongest. We don't look for the fastest. You can get faster. You can get stronger. What we train and look for is who has the least amount of quit. And that really stuck with me. Usually when I'm in a workout that's like multiple rounds and it's like just close to the halfway point, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. That sticks in my head. And I'm like, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. Yep. And that's exactly what you did in that situation when you were like, the sky is literally falling. What do I do? But you don't quit.
Yeah. And honestly, that was my thing, is like, I need to get my heart rate down because obviously it was escalated. I knew, feeling my body, that I'm like panicking. Like it's kind of like it's do or die. Like I either show up and save this event, or it's on me that's all gonna fail, right? So box breathing, that's my go-to technique. Then the second one, I like to engage my core. And honestly, I was in the restroom. I literally got on the floor. I know, not very sanitary. Who cares? I'm like, I'm going to do just a few push-ups because I needed my body, my core to engage. I just needed to give my brain the break that it needed to just come up with a solution, or just think about to like be free from, everything else, as I'm pushing basically my body to do something else so I can work through what I've got to deal with right now. And then the last step, I think that kind of a little bit works, actually speaks to what you just said about when you're in the middle of a grueling workout and you're halfway and you still have a lot of reps to do. What works for me, my strategy is segmentation. Basically, in my mind, I use this tactic where if I have 15 reps and they're really high loaded and the capacity, I'm like barely making it through each one of those reps, I just go in increments. I'm only going to do 5, and then I do 5 again, and then I'm going to do 5 again, right? And having that type of segmentation in your brain, like you allow your brain to just take it one step at a time. So you don't get yourself overwhelmed with like this whole task, like this whole workout. And especially when it's challenging, it's hard to push through something that you feel like there's no end to it, unless I'm able to count towards that one goal, because then I can segment my way through it. And that type of like strategy has saved my bacon. That particular event, if you don't figure out a strategy to make it work for you, you're going to crash under pressure. You're going to quit, like you said.
Yep. And when you're doing that on a regular basis, you don't even realize that you're prepared for it when it hits the fan at work. But it hits the fan and you're like, this is nuts, but let's figure it out. It's like when you find out what the workout is, you're like, this is a nightmare. I'm going to die.
Yes.
And then you're like, well,
just
okay.
Looking at some of your workouts that you post, I'm like, oh, it's a nightmare. Oh, no.
But you're like, okay, well, so I'll do it. And you start working through it. And when you practice that every day, not necessarily you need a rest day, but when you practice that on a regular basis, you have so much mental fortitude to go into an event where we literally plan for the worst and hope for the best. You are prepared. It doesn't matter what happens. You're going to be ready for it.